GunninGamerz here. Thought I'd include all of you in on my big project here. We've got some PC demolition and PC building going on. I've been talking about this since October of last year, and with the big move and 20 other things going on during then, here we are, and it's already the middle of March, and I'm finally getting around to it. I've still been buying my parts, kind of watching the deals, and I don't normally do things this way. Usually when I decide to build a PC, I have all the parts within a few days and the computer's built and done in a week's time. But there's just a lot of uncertainty in the market with certain hardware and which route I want to go with, you know, this or that, and mainly to do with graphics cards. And it gets a little bit more complicated when you get into doing, you know, YouTube and streaming and all that sort of thing. So I've been taking my sweet merry time, just you know, trying to decide and read and just see how everything plays out with the mantle and what NVIDIA's doing, and I think I've pretty much made up my decision of what card that I'll be going with. We'll get into more of that later. That's the only thing that I haven't ordered yet, and so I'm still going to be running with the older 580 super overclock here. Absolutely love this card. It still cranks out all the games. It's the Gigabyte WindForce. I think it's the first card that they actually ran that the WindForce cooler on. I got this, trying to think, well, it would have been October of 2011. I used to build every October, but kind of fallen out of that. So this thing's got a ton of hours on it and still is absolutely cranking the games away. So there's, you know, every game I play do on high. Every video that's on my YouTube has been done with this card right here. You know, it is overclocked from the regular 580. That's why it's a super overclock. So I guess what I was just getting at was, you know, it still cranks away on all the games. I've just noticed that on some games like you know, PlanetSide, some of the bigger MMOs, Firefall, you know, you get down to 30, 40, 50, 60, you know, it kind of floats in there, and I like to have that solid 60, and here soon when I upgrade my monitors, I'll be looking for 120 plus as far as frames go. So we'll be using this for probably about another week or so, and then this will be the card that ends up in Aiden's system, I call it now. It used to be my work system, but since I've kind of not really gotten the computer repair up and rolling yet since we've relocated, it's primarily going to be, you know, used for some streaming. Aiden will be playing, and Austin's not far behind. He's starting to catch on, and then, you know, I'll still, of course, be using it for some of the computer repair stuff that I do. So, got the case here. This is a Cooler Master Stacker 830. You'll see it when it's all put together. I don't know if I've ever showed it before. I've got it all emptied out right now except for my DVD drive and my external bay here, which has got the USB 3.0s on it. And I can put a regular 3.5-inch drive here and a solid state or 2.5-inch drive there. And I have not upgraded to my to a Blu-ray yet. I don't really burn Blu-ray, you know, anything right now. So that'll be coming in the near future. I'm gonna probably buy 2 of them and put one in each PC. And then in this case, the hard drive bays all will go in here. They're actually, let's see if I can do this while dropping this. They're actually mounted in their own rubber mounted, right here, these are rubber, and they're mounted in there, so you prevent vibration or anything. Not that you have too much problems with that, and certainly not with the solid states, that none of that would matter. But they also have a 120mm fan, and you know, air blows right down, and the air is forced through them, so they get cooled very, very nicely. It's one thing I like a lot about this case. However, the Cooler Master 922 that I've got on the floor down here has really good cooling with a 200mm fan right here in the front, and of course that air is going to pass over, you know, regardless. So this, I've got 2 of these. One, it came with one. I actually ordered another one here that I started using back in October. but stack the other one right here, so we've got plenty of cooling with two 120s in the front. This case here was made with a 120 on the top, and I've gone ahead and actually mounted in a plastic doohickey that went right under here, and I got rid of all that, and I have mounted a 140. There is a cover around here, it's right here on the floor, that actually will go over. So you'll see in further videos. I don't know if it'll be in this one when I show the finished product or not, but you'll see it when it's all done up. It's still the old school style with the power supply being mounted here on top. Motherboard is of course underneath. The bottom here, I might have to grab the camera in a second to show this, but we've got two 120s that are on the bottom. That used to just be a screen, and I went ahead and mounted in two 120s, and that forces air up along the entire length of the GPU or the graphics card, and definitely helped drop some temps there. And then, I don't want to dig it out, you'll see it later on, there's a bracket that goes right here, and I have four 140s that are mounted in right up here. So, this is the reason why I've held on to this case from 2008. I bought this in February of 2008. There's not much from 2008 that is good these days, but this case, and I've built many, many PCs, and I still cannot find one that has the airflow that this one does. It is an entire open case. There's a piece of aluminum here that your motherboard mounts onto, and the whole deal will slide in behind there, and the back is completely open. I mean, it is the most open case that I've ever seen. There's probably another one or two out there like it, but it's hard to find them today. And I've kind of decided, though, when I started ripping this apart this morning, that after all these years, the parts that go into this case right now, they're going to stay in here forever. I think this is the third motherboard, the fourth graphics card. I had the original power supply in here, but I've had a lot of parts come through this case, and it is time to move it down the line, and it'll be my main system for 2 years, and then 2 years is my backup system, and the one that my kids, and then it might actually, that's usually after that, after 4 to 5 years, usually four and a half, is when I turn around and sell them. And I've got one on the floor here that we'll look at in a minute that is going to be going out the door, and this one might stick around for another rotation. That would make this case anywhere from 10 to 12 years old. And I know it'll do the job. It's a big case, it's a full tower, it has plenty of room, and the air goes through it, and so that's pretty much the most important thing with the case. The thing that dates it a little bit is the cable management. It's possible because it's a full tower, but cable management didn't exist back then. I mean, it wasn't something people cared or thought much. It wasn't a trendy thing to talk about, and people used to let the rats or birds' nest happen inside there, and back then I was really anal about that too, because I knew that was going to cut down my airflow. So I've been pretty anal about keeping things tied up, and this case, being that it's open all the way around, is very tough to it's more tough to do that. This is the original power supply that came with this case. This is from 2008. It's Cooler Master 1000 watt. It's got a really nice cover on it there. I think it's a 140 millimeter fan. I'm almost positive on that. It could be a 135, basically the same thing. But this guy here has been trucking away for 6 years, and awesome power supply, but right here you can see that's 2008 for you. Lots of cables and no modular design. We're going to be replacing this with it's a 1000 watt Corsair. I was trying to look at the model here. The RM. It's the RM. So it's a 1000 watt, and it's an 80 plus gold. And this here, 80 plus, I believe it's bronze. I don't really know for sure. This again was something that we didn't talk much about back in 2008. And frankly, I bought this power supply with the case as a package. It was like 350 bucks for the two of them. And this right here, this meant nothing to me at the time. I wasn't really working as a computer tech. I was actually a banker, senior banker with one of the large banks here in the U.S. And so, you know, I knew how to, you know, work with money and things like that, but I was pretty much a noob back then with computer stuff. I never built my own at that time. This was actually my first build. Kind of went all out at the time, and you know, looking back, I see a lot of things that, you know, here we are in 2014, 6 years later, and these parts are still very relevant. Other than the fact that this isn't modular, a 1,000-watt power supply, I mean, this was insane back then, and the whole 80 plus thing. I was excited when I pulled this out a few weeks ago, and I didn't pull it fully out, but I was really looking up in there because this was kind of covered here and by this bar, and I got to look and I said, wow, that thing is 80 plus. I figured this thing was, you know, really non-efficient, you know, but no, it's got to be above 80, and that's good enough for me for the backup system. So the new one is an 80 plus gold, and that's 93% efficient. So you only have about 7% you know, power wasted, and that'll definitely help cut down the electric bill. And you know, I believe always going with a really good power supply, because you get some dirty electricity from some of those cheap ones, and you know, the 700 watt, 800 watt, whatever. There, you know, you go on Amazon or something like that, and you'll see some that are, you know, I've got a 600 watt on the shelf right there, the Diablo Tech, and basically I think I paid $29.99 for them, and I've probably used about 100 of them in fixing customers' computers. It's again a 600 watt. I've used the 400s, the 500s. I used to do 500s for years, and I stepped up about a year ago to the 600s. So because I started seeing computers that were a little bit more, you know, they actually were had more hard drives and you know, lights and just different things. So I went to the 600s, and that was again in customer systems. But you can go on to Amazon and find a 600 watt power supply. It's $100. So you know, and you know, sometimes people that are new into this industry and have not built, you know, they see like, why would I pay $100 when I can get the same thing at $600 for $30? Well, there's a big difference. And I always would recommend going with a good power supply, because as you've seen, and I just tested this with the tester, all my voltages are still coming back perfect. I mean, this thing is 6 years old. It's got, I used to kind of have an idea how many hours, because your hard drives will tell with crystal disk, but I've lost track since some of the previous hard drives are now gone and sold. But I can't even begin to estimate how many hours this thing's got on it, and it's still just as clean can be. I blow my computers out with the air compressor and a filter about every month, and you know, that fan's not got a speck of dust on it. Keep things very, very clean. I'm very picky about that sort of thing. And this is basically the it's one of my air tanks here. It's normally, this filter's upside down, but when I was talking about cleaning out computers, this tank is mounted upside down in a rack. You can actually see it in my last video when I was out there showing about the air hose in the snow plowing video. But that's a filter right there. You can pick them up. They're like $20-something at Lowe's. That's where this one came from. It's a Cobalt, and it's it removes all, you know, dirt, water. You can actually see some moisture in there on the glass. Like I said, normally that would be the other way, and it's not going to hurt having it like that. But you normally have that going down, and when you drain the water out, when the pressure, this little guy will open up, and any water that's in here will leak out. So I recommend getting something like that. It's 125 psi, and I don't normally keep that in the office, but when I'm doing all this computer stuff here, I definitely you know, like to get in and really clean some things up. So definitely get a setup like that. Cans of air are just a waste of time, in my opinion. I mean, they're good for like a quick little blowout, but you keep your computer equipment clean like this, and you'll get years and years out of it, and it looks a whole lot nicer too. So enough about that. These are some of the older parts that we've got here. This is, you know, I can't even remember the exact model. This system was built, let me turn this here. This system here was built on the Maximum PC Magazine's Dream PC. 2011. And I saw it in the summer of 2011 when they, I think it's July, they come out with their dream PC. This is a gigabyte motherboard that they used with the Intel 2600K. And then they went with 4 sticks of this Corsair Vengeance RAM. And then they had, I don't know what they did for cooling. I think they went with liquid. I can't even remember, but this is the Corsair H60 version 2. Came out just a few months ago, and it's skinny radiator. This actually this is just from a few months ago, but I had the version 1 that had the skinny hoses, and they were half the thickness and they were hard plastic. I didn't like it, and actually the pump died on me back in October. And I think I talked about that in my videos back then, and this is actually the new one. And I would have upgraded in a heartbeat to the H80, which is the same setup, but it's got the smart pump. You'll see that. I've got one here in my inventory that I'll be using. And then you've got the radiator here that's 2 times thicker on the H80 versus the H60 is double the thickness, and it comes with 2 fans, which I was running 2 fans anyway. So with that being said, I ended up getting a freebie, and they upgraded me to the version 2 that had just came out and wasn't even in the stores yet, so I was pretty excited about that. And then they've got their high static fans here. These are supposed to be special fans that really have a good pull to them. And again, the H60 come with 1, H80 with 2, and H100 with 2. But I've always run another Thermaltake fan and sandwiched them in there, and that's kind of the reason why. And now you'll see this with the H80, but I actually cut the case out years ago because I actually mount my radiator on the outside of the case with 1 fan outside, and it helps keep things a little bit more neat instead of having, all these fans and everything squished and covering up your motherboard. It gets everything outside the case, and all you have is I just put 1 fan inside the case. So, but yeah, this was based on that system. The only difference is they went with, at the time, 3 480s, the old Fermis there, the 480, and 3 or 4, I can't remember. I think it was just 3 at the time. And I'm not gonna spend money on 3 cards, but that was what made it their dream PC. It was done in a case that had I think Lamborghini paint or something like that, and that's what made it really pricey. But aside from the case, I built everything the same, but went with 1 580. I built mine that fall, and the 580s had already come out, and I bought the fastest 580 that you could. That's it right there. That was the end of the 580 line. So other than that, we've got our new motherboard. We're going with a G1 Sniper 5, and you'll be seeing that. It's awesome motherboard. I ended up going with the overclock Force, or I can't remember what it was their overclock one that I went with. It's orange in color, and I got it and I was pretty happy with it, but just didn't care for a few things, and it really was pretty much meant for the whole overclocking deal. And I got to look, and this one has a lot better sound. It's got the Creative Labs stuff all built in, and you can change out your op amps, and I mean, it's just pretty slick unit. It's really made for gamers. So that one runs about $385 or so right now, and I think they've got a rebate, which I've got to get around to doing. So other than that, bench is kind of a mess. I haven't really shown my setup here. This is some of the stuff that I've got in inventory right now. My wife's got her workstation. This is where she spends 40 hours of her week there. And we're kind of sharing this room right now, and I've got one of my workbenches. I used to have 2 of these, and one was wide open. I could do all kinds of building, but and then there's technically my little setup there, which you've maybe seen in some other videos. I got my other 19-inch, it's an older 19-inch full screen monitor set up there for doing streaming, Twitch and all that sort of thing that I'm going to be getting big into. Doing a bunch of that here, and then this over here is my other little station where Aiden would sit, and this was my where I did my computer repair stuff. Got my test bench up here. If you're really getting into building and fixing computers, absolute must-have. I've got it up on this shelf for now. Like I said, I'm missing one of my big shelves and workbenches that I just can't fit in this room, and until we get the basement remodeled, I'll be up here sharing some space with my wife for a while, which has been interesting. But got to have the test bench here. It's really handy. You can grab all your cables and hook up the hard drives, and you know, pretty much it's just unbelievable once you build something like that. Once you have something, I mean, it's not a very expensive motherboard. It's a dual core processor, a couple gigs of RAM, whatnot. You'll find yourself absolutely using that thing all the time. And I got the little monitor up there. It's just a little cheapo 15-inch. So basically, we're just gonna dive through and take a look here at the system going out. This was the one that I ran for the last few years. These parts again, this motherboard's always been in this case. I built this back in 2009. Let's see if I can rest it there. 750 watt power supply. This thing is one of those dirty power supplies. Well, it's a good quality one. It's one of the ultra professional series, but I was looking at the efficiency. Like I said, that back then was not really something people cared or thought or really even knew about, and nowadays that's one of the biggest things you'll find when you go to buy a power supply. But this has only got an efficiency rating of 73%, so it's not even 80 plus or anything like that, and just wastes a bunch of electricity. But it is a good power supply, and you're talking about, you know, probably dollars a year, not even hundreds or anything, obviously anything too much. So still, if you go with something like that, you're good to go. But this one's got the old DDR2 RAM, 8 gigabytes of it, and I've got the Kingwin aftermarket cooler. This has got an Intel Q9550, and so it's a good, or I might be mistaken on that, the Q9500. It's a very good computer. It still plays games. Biggest holdback right now is the hard drives, and of course, you know, the GTX 285. That is the overclock edition. Again, it was the I believe it was the fastest 285 that there was, and it still plays games pretty good. But you definitely got to turn a lot of them down to the settings from high down to high, medium high, things like that. So we basically going to be taking a bunch of our stuff out, and let me show you my favorite part of this whole computer here. I still have, let's see if you guys remember what that is. Yes, it's a media card reader, but we've got a floppy drive, and that is going to be that media card deal there works very good, and I am going to still use that. It's going to go into the new system, but I am not hooking up the floppy drive cable. I do have that hooked up. Actually, you can see the fat guy right here. I'm not going to be hooking that up again because I don't need floppies, and many people are probably wondering, why would you even have that? I've had people ask me that have seen it, and because anybody that has fixed computers and has known with Windows XP, which is finally going to die here very soon in like the next few weeks, let me just say one phrase there: SCSI drivers. That's why you need a floppy. Dealing with those damn SCSI drivers, and now that XP is dead and gone, I will not be using that. I'll be so happy to see that floppy cable go, and we'll just keep the media card reader there, because that thing works just fine, and I'm not going to go buy a new one just because it looks old school with floppy. But yes, very glad that those floppy days are gone. I'm sick and tired of dealing with those things. They went kind of out of mainstream 10 years ago, but every few months, up until a couple years ago, I would use it, sometimes once a month, and then, in the last year, I think one time I used it, and like I said, now that XP is gone, we won't be fixing it no more. And if you got that problem or we need SCSI driver, just take that thing out back and throw it away. I actually have a USB one that will work just fine, so I have a USB floppy drive still, so I can always use that. Anyways, so this system here, I'm going to be taking out my some of my extra SATA ports here, and pretty much the rest of it is going to get sold off. So we've got a couple of nice fans. Get my camera. A couple of 120s up top there. You could actually put 140s in. Back when I built it, 140s were not very common, so I went with 120s. I did put a 140 here. I'm sorry, there's a 120. Can have another 140 there. And the side panel that goes on the front has a 140 on it, and you got 120 in the back. So pretty standard. Again, built this in October of 2009. And this thing here cleaned up thousands and thousands of viruses off of people's computers. This computer's made me a lot of money. It's paid for itself hundreds of times over. So very happy. Maybe not hundreds of times, but 100 times maybe. I don't know, something. It's paid for itself many times over the years, and it's been a very faithful computer. There's the new case over there, the 922. I've already got my fans in it, and slide this old guy out of the way. Oh, that thing is so heavy. So we got the 922. This is probably one of my favorite cases, and again, the covers are off for right now, but I've got a 200 millimeter that's going to be on the side. We've got a 140 down here at the bottom, and all these are done in blue. They come with a red in the front, but I've replaced them all blue. We have a 200 in the front that blows over the drives, and we also are going to have, well, back here it's going to be the H60, so that takes care of the 120 problem back there. So 200 on top blue, 200 in front, 200 on the side, 140 in the bottom. So there's kind of a picture of it when it has sides put on it in the front. But I love this case. It's anywhere between $79 and $99 here in the U.S. I think I paid $84 for mine. I've seen it at $79. Most of the time it hovers right around $99. But it is one of my favorite cases because of the price, because of how thick it is, you know, the width, the cable management. They've thought of everything, and it's in a medium-size package here, and you know, got a good price, easy to build. They look nice. They paint them black inside. I have built probably a dozen computers in this case alone. Probably more than that, you know, but there's about a dozen I could think of. One week I was hammering out about 2 a day, you know, and 1 or 2 a day for a week there. We were building like crazy to get ready for a big sale. So, and then I've built for some friends, and now this is the first one that I've owned, and so it's kind of a no-brainer. But this will be the one that all my old parts go into, and that my kids will be using, and I'll be using for my work PC. And got to get the solid state in there, and of course we're going solid state with the new setup. And oh my gosh, we got all kinds of parts here. There's the H80 down there, and the Corsair power supply. Got some of our RAM, fans. Just got a bunch of junk. Those are all boxes full of hard drives, and my solid states are on another shelf elsewhere. Just a bunch of stuff. I always carry. This is kind of a very smart thing to do if you run I can't see it there. I got too much crap in the way to get over there, but I always keep an extra $30 CPU cooler here. This is a Cooler Master. Nothing special. I think this one was like 25 bucks, but I always keep one of these. If you run one of these closed loop coolers or any liquid cooling, in my opinion, if you ever spring a leak, you ever have a problem, you ever have a pump go out. That's what happened to me. I had a pump after 2 years, it just burned out. Well, it got stuck, and then if you click on it, it would keep going. But just nothing special here. It's got 3 heat pipes, but I always keep one of those on hand just in case if, you know, I have a problem, because your only other alternative, and here's one of my 4770K here. This is what's going to go into the new PC, but your only other alternative is to use that little crappy drive, the fan, the heatsink that you end up putting in there, and then you got to take all your overclocks off and deal with listening to that noisy little fan and high temps, and I just hate them. So you don't want to get yourself in that situation. Always keep a good, inexpensive air cooler on hand in case if you have a problem, you can get back up and running. And that's another thing nice about the cases nowadays is they've got the cutout so you don't have to remove your motherboard in order to, if you have a problem. I think this case here, going upside down mode. Yeah, this case here does not have that. They actually had where you could put a little 80mm fan back there. Again, this is 2009 here, 2008 technology. And nowadays that would all be cut out, and frankly, if I was to keep this case, I probably would eventually cut that out. That's what I ended up doing on mine. And it's not the prettiest little thing here, but I had all these holes, and I went and you know, cut mine out, and now I can access it. And again, this is all covered up, so although my lines aren't perfect, they're good enough, and you don't see it when it's all put together, and the motherboard's covering it up and whatnot. So it's something that you don't want to have to deal with if you have something go out and you can't change your cooler because you don't have access to the screws from behind, and now you're totally hosed and ripping your entire computer apart for something that would otherwise take 10-15 minutes. So that's kind of where we're at with this this big mess here. I'll probably show some different things at different stages, and try to get this whole thing done. And we still got snow on the ground outside. I am going to be heading right down there here pretty soon and do a little hunting. haven't felt like going out there because there was several feet of snow. I think we've got about a foot or so left, and I'll have to be doing some yard cleanup here. You can see all of our grass piles that are on top of the snow, that everything's melting and it's just been muddy and all that good stuff. But I'll be getting outside here pretty soon and doing a bunch of fun stuff out there with guns and do some hunting. Hunting is not going to happen for a few months because I got to wait for the seasons to come back. But rabbit is still going on right now, and I've been looking. I've had a few tracks around the house here, but just haven't been motivated or had enough time to run out there and try hunting any of those right now. So, but anyway, we're gonna get busy with the good stuff here, and maybe we'll tune back in and have a look at our progress here shortly. All right, so I've just got my power supply mounted up, the old 1000 watt here, and again, you can see one of the things I absolutely love about this case. And that's that all them wires, and you saw how many of them there were, they're all come out right here and go right out that hole so that I can tie it up on the other side here. There's some nice little loops that you can put plastic ties through. I don't know if you can see that. Put plastic ties through, and you can really tie things up, and you'll see that when I get down. I've gone ahead and let all my wires down. I'm sure you guys noticed my my building bench here. This is the best building bench that I've ever found. I've tried several different setups, and I'll tell you what, this old chair, $20 chair or whatever it costed from Walmart 15 years ago, is one of the slickest setups because it has kind of a padded bottom here. The computers don't move around, they don't slip around, and you can spin it. When I start getting into my cable management here, I will turn that sideways and set it long ways on the chair so that I can access both sides, and I'm constantly spinning it like this as I get to the pieces. And then when you get to a certain point, you got the back on there that tilts with it, and you can see and get in there. And like I said, I've built many computers on this chair, and you can't beat it. Like I said, they make stuff specifically for putting cases on when you build. They don't work half as good. So just a little tip there. So now we're ready to put the risers on, and this is a big thing that I see a lot of people go wrong. You know, when I, with my repair business there, I would check in a lot of computers that would be having all kinds of different, you know, custom-built computers that would be having different issues. And one of the things I'd find is they didn't have a lot of these risers put down. I call them standoffs, but riser standoffs. They would not put those down on the you know, they put, you know, four, like, well, it's not going to go anywhere, it's not going to fall out. Part of the reason that you do that is if you look on these holes here, try to hold that up there, you have, you know, these are ground points, and when you don't put those on, then again, I haven't seen specifically where I can rule out that was the problem, but you can have grounding issues in the boards that do all kinds of crazy things. It's one of the things that I learned a long time ago, and they put them on there for a specific reason. Use them. It takes an extra couple minutes, and it's very simple, but I'm telling you, all the custom builds that come through my doors, you know, 80% of the time they'd be missing some or several of the risers or standoffs there. And I don't know why people neglect that. Or they'd put them all on, but then they didn't put the screws in. So you definitely need to make sure you do that. And basically we're going to mount this guy up here. I'm not going to take the cooler off. For one, I don't need to, but the other reason is I've already got that cured with some good OCC freeze, and I kind of want to leave that. So you got to kind of eyeball where your stuff is going here. I already know that I'm going to need one here, one here. One of the things I love about this case, one of the many things, is that they have a graph. I don't know if you can really see it there, but it kind of tells you that if you have a micro ATX or an ATX, which ones to put them in, A, B, C, D, and they're all listed. Which for noobs, again, now they have no excuse to skip out on putting those down. So we're going to open our handy little box here that comes with some goodies. And as you notice, I do not use static strap and all that crap. I have never had an issue with that, but if you think you're going to, and you're paranoid about it, you know, you probably should get yourself one. I've had my hands inside of thousands of computers and never once had problems. I've had wires disconnect, touch. I've had sparks inside of computers. I've had all kinds of crazy things I've seen, and never a shocked motherboard. So hopefully today's not my day, but it's something that I do not worry about for a second. And what else we got in here? These are some brackets. Actually, they provide you for solid state. Kind of neat. We've got two of them here. Oh, and it comes with a speaker. Definitely want to use these. I see people, you know, I don't need a speaker. Yeah, these here can be a huge lifesaver if you have thermal issues with your computer. I speak from experience on that, because I've seen it many times, but this very motherboard and processor, my little speaker saved it from absolutely toasting when my pump went out. And that's something else that I no longer do, that overclockers will always tell you is definitely go and turn off everything, disable the stuff that throttles your processor if it gets too hot. And you know, for years I did that, and that's fine if you're on air cooling. But if you're liquid cooling, don't do that. It's just not worth it. They give me a bunch of, there we go, bunch of cable ties, which is pretty slick. Normally you don't find that. So we got a loose screw floating around here. I don't know what it's for, but I'm going to set that aside. And we've got our little bag of good stuff here. We're going to dump out. And you just start screwing them in. Normally you can hand tighten these. I actually have a screwdriver that does them, but I've also just used many times, you know, pliers or something like that. It's just common sense. These things are brass, or I believe are brass. They look like they are. With the holes being painted, it's I'm not getting them down all the way, I can tell that. And so we're going to definitely have to use something to tighten them down on there. Oh, and here I am holding it in my hands. I forgot about that too. They actually give you this little socket deal, Phillips head on it. So, like I said, I already have a screwdriver that's the same size as these, and I usually use that, but it's also 10 feet away from me right now, and I just happen to have a screwdriver right here. And we'll go ahead and tighten these guys down. Hopefully I got them all in there right, but you definitely want to make sure that you do, because the last thing you want is a riser in the wrong place touching on the back of some solder points, which I have also seen many times. And trust me, I've been doing this for a long time, and I never consider myself an expert, because everybody makes mistakes. Lord knows I've made some, and there's always a lot to learn, but with anything you do, but there comes a point where I don't think it's because sometimes people don't know. I just think they're just not careful enough, and they don't really take the time to you know, educate themselves on what they're doing. And a good majority of them had no problem paying me $50 an hour to go ahead and correct their mistakes. And I was usually pretty lenient about charging them for too many hours, but you know, hour or two in and I had $100 in, and they could have put that towards a better graphics card or something. But it's amazing how many times I would get them in. So then we got little screws here, little black ones, pretty fancy, but those are going to go into all of our little standoffs there. And I'm going to have to put some screws down here. I'll have them all over the floor in a minute. So again, it'd be a little bit easier if I didn't have all this stuff on, but this is something else if you think about going with a any of them really, but I'm a big one for these very flexible rubber hoses. The Cooler Masters are making them now, and they've got this stiff kind of plasticky hose. They're half the size. One thing is you will get where they push on the RAM like that. Now if you're running 2 sticks, that's fine, but this happens to be a motherboard where you are supposed to start out, I don't know if you can see that, this is slot 1, 2, 3, 4. On my new system, it's actually now on the 1150s, they're starting them over here. At least Gigabyte is. They start 1, 2, 3, 4. And so it's kind of nice because unless if you're using 4 sticks, you're not going to have any hoses putting pressure on that. The other thing is, you know, I always recommend the least amount of sticks that you can go. You know, 8 gig sticks 2 years ago were very, very pricey, and that's why I've got these 4s. But now I'm going with 2 sticks on the new system, an 8 gig and an 8 gig in these slots. So, and there's also a lot more room. I think they kind of spread these RAM modules out. So we'll go ahead and mount this in here. Oh, forgetting a big piece here. Let me grab that. This is another thing. Your shield here. People, for some reason, don't really ever, and I don't mean to go on and on about this stuff, but most custom computers that came in, they would not have this shield in the correct place, or they wouldn't have it popped in all the way, or they wouldn't even use it. And I don't know what the reasoning behind that is, but and they'd mash them up pretty bad too when they put them in. You don't want to get like interference from your USBs or something like that. So you kind of, and there we are. We've got our beautiful. See if you can see that there. Got these. This is for your liquid cooling hoses. I think they make a top-mounted radiator for these. I don't really know, but that's if you're running your hoses outside the case. It seemed like it used to be a lot more popular than it is now. I suppose the big overclock guys, they do that, but for the rest of us, like, you know, even the H100s or some of the others, in these cases you get the radiator right here on top. And so let's go ahead and make sure we've done everything right. And yep, we have. Even though I've done this many times, I always make sure, very paranoid, that I've got them all. Slide that in. And our little H60 here. I was very close to cutting this out here and mounting again the radiator on the back side. Again, that would leave only one little fan right here, but I don't know, I just didn't really feel like hacking apart this case. You normally will end up having to cut out a bunch of this here because this is your 120, and then you've got this, and it just didn't look like there'd be quite enough room, and then you end up getting into drilling more holes. And so I started looking at it, I'm like, no, not going to do it, because honestly, in the future, I might switch this out with and go with 2 H100s. You know, one for this and one for the new setup that I get. But that again would be a radiator, same thickness, but twice the length. H80 is double the thickness, same length. But they go here and then they come all the way down down here. So we're just going to make sure that's going to work. It will. Got to be very careful you don't smash the heck up out of your radiator. It's very easy to bend those pins, and then you start getting crappy airflow through it. And some people recommend when you build that you build your entire PC, you know, putting all your stuff outside the case and then mounting it in. I am kind of doing that right now, but only because it was already in there. Again, this came out of my other system, so normally I build outside the case, or I mean, I'm sorry, I build inside the case and kind of leave it at that. I'm not really one for fooling around with all this stuff hanging off of here and bumping sticks of RAM and busting everything up. But it don't matter too much how you do it. Okay, and now we've got that. All of our holes are lined up. We're going to screw this thing down. Do not use your electric screw gun, your DeWalt. They do make some for electronics repair, and I've been going to buy one, but at the end of the day, you really can't go wrong with a good old-fashioned screwdriver. Alright, now we got our motherboard mounted up there. Again, one of the other things I'm pretty passionate about is my thermal paste. I've seen so much of it go so wrong for so many people. It's one of the other big things that I see people screw up on. There's different ways of doing it. It's very simple, but since I've already got this thing mounted, and again the OCZ Freeze is what I use, and also the Arctic Silver, I got a big tube of that I've been probably done about 300 processors with it, and it's only maybe half gone. $8. It's good stuff. So basically I'm not going to take this one off, and we'll do that in on the new build with the 4770K. So we'll mount this guy up here, and I'll have to think about what I'm going to do with my screws there. As far as I use my own screws, they come with some of these guys, and you know, made for one fan, but these black ones. But I use some of these I pick up at the hardware store, and had some spacers, some washers in there. And that way I can go with two, because they do come pre-drilled. Can't show it here, but they do come pre-drilled on both sides for doing two fans. So I think most people probably did it that way. And again, H80, you know, that's how they are, and that's how I'd recommend doing it. Unless if you really got a small case, I wouldn't recommend going with a H60 for 20-30 bucks more. You can go with a bigger radiator. So. But again, I had this from 2 years ago. So what I'm going to do is run my Thermotake fan here. These things are really super high RPM, but they have a switch dangling here that turns them way down, and they still blow quite a bit of air. And like I said, I've had them for a number of years, and I'm just going to go ahead and use them again. Alright, another problem I just ran into here that was kind of unforeseen is we got this little rivet right down here. Probably hard to see because it's black, and it's really preventing, when we have this much space, to get those holes lined up. I don't really know if I can force it in. It seems like it's just not gonna get down there, and I don't really want to flip the thing upside down. So what I'm thinking is I might just drop down, since, you know, it's not even my main system. I am overclocking the 4 gigahertz from 3.4, so it's not a huge overclock, but you know, it generates a little bit extra heat. I might just go ahead and sandwich this one in. I probably could still fit another fan on there, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a pretty thick setup with all those fans. I guess it wouldn't be any less than having an H80. You know, that's for sure. H80 would be 2 fans. Plus, you know, double a thick radiator, and I've seen that inside these setups, and I mean, that whole thing comes back to back to there. So we'll just see what happens. I'm going to go ahead and just mount the entire thing inside the case rather than having one fan outside. and it'll be fine because we don't ever need to really access this stuff here. The only thing that I'm seeing is I'm gonna have to grab my cable pretty quick here for the CPU and on the board here, and go ahead and plug that guy in. So we'll go ahead and do that real quick. Well, here's our setup with the fan mounted in front, and kind of how Corsair designed it and intended it to be done. But I've got this extra fan here, and I've almost thought about maybe not just putting it on there. There's really, Linus Tech Tips has done a video about the whole push-pull thing, and it's kind of showing that this probably isn't really doing a whole lot. And I would kind of agree with that on a radiator of this thickness, because you really don't have a whole lot of surface area to blow the air through that the air's gonna, airspeed's gonna slow down. It's pretty thin stuff here. So on the H80 though, again, it comes with 2 fans, and I do believe that now, I don't know, I think on that one it would help, because you're talking about double the thick radiator. Again, we're gonna see that on the next build here, part 2 or whatnot. But I think then it would kind of start helping, force that air through with a push-pull setup. But I've already got this, and certainly isn't going to hurt anything. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it on. And then we've got our handy little switch here, which I usually keep turned pretty close to all the way down. And we'll mount that right here on the top slot, since we don't use that for anything. And our graphics card will pop in right there, and we'll be good to go. Alright, had to step away there. Dinner bell was ringing, but we're back and got the fan mounted up over here. One thing I wanted to point out, anybody who really gets into doing some PC building, you're definitely going to want to pick yourself up an assortment of these machine screws. I recommend some of these are 1 1/4, 1 1/2, but you definitely want to get yourself some machine screws for fans, and be surprised how much stuff you can use. And of course, a little bit of washers, some nuts for them, wing nuts. I've got even some real small ones that work. I've used them for a number of different things, but in this case, I had to get some shorter ones because I didn't need so many spacers that I had on the other kit. Let's see if we can focus that a little bit better here. So I went ahead and got that fan mounted up there, and you can see it adds a little bit of thickness on, but it's not blocking anything. We got our CPU wire hooked up over there, and got the switch put on right here, so we can adjust that one fan if we want. And I usually put it about 1/3 up with this setup, and get a nice amount of airflow that comes out of the back of the radiator there. So we're just got to go ahead now and get the rest of our cables put through. I'm not going to be dropping solid states in this case right now, because a couple more days I need to be using this setup for my regular editing and whatnot, and so I've got to pop some of my old hard drives back in from the other system, and in a couple days here we're going to be popping solid states in and kind of redoing that. I'm sure I'll probably do a little bit of a video on the final setup once I get to that point. Again, we're going to have to run our SATA cables over here. Some of these newer boards, this is 2 years old, but this only has 2 ports that are actually SATA 3. If you're running solid states or running SATA 3 hard drives, you definitely want to be reading on the board or in your manual if you need to make sure you're plugging into SATA 3. And especially on these boards, by default, they like to go to IDE mode for the hard drives by default, and you've got to change that to ACHI, because otherwise you're going to be limiting how much you're able to pass through as far as data goes. So definitely, be careful when you do that. And then another thing to point out, I'm not sure because I've definitely built with AMD motherboards, but I haven't owned any in the recent years. But some of these, like this one, has 2 SATA 3 that are white. That's the white one here, and then there's 4 SATA 2s, and then there's some more SATA 3s, but this is on the Marvel controller, separate controller. And the more I've read up on this, these things work, but not as well. You really don't want to use these unless if you absolutely have to. and especially if it's a SATA 2 device already, you're better off putting it on a SATA 2 and just leaving this SATA 3 on a third-party controller alone. In my opinion, I've had some issues with that in the past on certain boards, including even this one. But the good news is we've got actually 10 SATA ports on the new board, and I think all of them, but 2 or 4, I know there's at least 6 of them that are native. So that's going to be pretty awesome. That's about what I need, is about 6 to 8 of them. So we'll be good to go there. Alright, we skip forward here some. I've got my graphics card put in. Went ahead and put in my eSATA connectors here. A lot of times people don't even use these because the case has so many, but I think I'd die without those. I use them a lot for hooking up customers' hard drives and backing up data, and I just find that they're more reliable to use, because this is essentially just an extension cord, and on the back here, which is kind of hard to see, we'll have some more cables that come out of there with power and all that. I just find them more reliable than the actual hard drive bays, which I might eventually, you know, go ahead and put one in here like I have in my other system. So I got that in here, and that was out of the old one. Got my media card reader put in over here, and got the cable run for that. Basically where I'm at now here, I was just working with these PCI Express power leads, and what we end up with, this power supply, you know, being that, again, we're talking about 2008 technology, had where, see if I can find one on this side, has the 8-pin right here with the 6-pin on it as well, and I really hate that because my OCD says that I don't like using both of these. Like my 580 needs an 8 and a 6. Well, you know, you could plug that in. That's essentially what that's made for. I think this thing is for up to several graphics cards, 2 at least, maybe more. I think you can do up to 4. But anyway, back in 2008, there wasn't boards really supporting that yet, the having quad GPU. But I just hate having these cables, and I really like to use, you know, a single 8-pin and a single 6. Like I said, just again, my OCD, I like having, you know, a separate cable for each. You know, I heard stories back in the day about cards not getting enough, you know, juice and things like that because everything was coming through the same, you know, chunk of wires. And I don't know if that has much truth anymore today. It probably didn't even in this 1,000 watt power supply back then, but again, I'm talking about like 10 years ago. I just remember hearing, you know, things like that. And we didn't have the technology back then that we certainly do now. But what I went ahead and did is took this 8-pin and chopped off my 6. And I wanted to do that for years, but I, you know, really didn't. For one, I didn't want to void warranty. You know, didn't know what the future was going to hold. Well, now that this is going to be my backup system here, this is just in case I have a problem with mine, or, you know, I might even turn this into doing some video rendering. Certainly, I'll have it doing uploading, which doesn't really use anything on the computer, but other than the Ethernet connection. But and the fact that this power supply is 6 years old, I've decided that I've got nothing to lose. Even if this thing shits the bed, I'm really not out anything. So I chopped that off there, and I've done this sort of thing here before to clean up some of my wires. And if you do, I'll see if I can zoom in here, and we'll take a look down here. Sorry, I've got you guys on a tripod here. What I've gone ahead and done here, I cut the wires. There's 6 of them, and I've cut them all at a different length. I wrapped the original ones with a little bit of electrical tape, just one layer, and went ahead and chopped that off. And then I cut a short, and then this one a little longer, this one here a little longer, a little longer, a little longer. And that way you don't have to wrap each end with tape. They're not going to touch. There's no way they're going to be able to touch, because we're obviously going to take electrical tape real clean and real tight, and we're going to wrap around that until I get down to about here. like I said, there is no way that these little bit of copper here that's exposed can touch anything else. There's not going to be any interference as far as that goes. So, you know, it's kind of a way to rig it, but once we're done, this cable will be much thinner. We won't have this stupid 6-pin flopping around, and I've got my other dedicated 6-pin here, and it'll be boom and boom. Most of the newer cards now are even going with 2 8-pin, and what we're looking at here, we'll certainly be getting into that anyway. But as I said, this system will stay as is until I retire it and sell it here in a few years. So went ahead and got the DVD drive put in, and it's basically time for for cable management, which is a pleasure with this case. I mean, it could be worse, but again, we're still working with a mid-tower case, and I have done some really nice builds with the cable management. Zoom this out here. I've done some really nice builds with the cable management on this 922, but I think mine here, I've got the most wires that I've dealt with, so I'm going to get busy doing that here and finish it up. Alright, here's our finished result. Got the tape on there nice and tight. Almost looks professional. I do recommend, if you do that though, to use on the very top a cable tie pulled real tight so that none of the wires work themselves loose, and you can kind of bend it as you need. Unfortunately, the tape does make that a little bit more stiff, but we want to try to make it look as nice as we can, and I'll pull all that down and bend it back in there and make it look a little bit better before we're done here. Alright, well, there's the finished product right here. At least for now anyway. We're missing a couple hard drives, and I'm missing the solid state drive, which I have here in stock, but not ready to put them in and install Windows on that yet, since I am going to be using this as my main PC for a couple days. But it'll work fine for a backup. And we'll go over to the other side here. We can see it's about as good as we're going to get working with a non-modular power supply. It's pretty clean in here. I could definitely tidy up this SATA cable maybe a little bit more, but we won't worry about that too much. Got my little power lead for my side fan hiding down here, and of course, like I said, we've got the external eSATA cables that run out there that make it look a little messy too, but that'll definitely work. We're going to get it on the bench and power it up, make sure all the fans are working and everything else. But going back here, we've got all of our extra cable that, we would have never had any of this if we would have had a modular power supply. And we've also got the stuff that we are using kind of tied up here, and thankfully there's kind of a bevel on the 922 case, as you can see here. This is the inside of the cover, and it'll just go over like that, so it's kind of nice it's beveled out a little bit to help you get past some of this mess here. Alright, well, I finally got the thing back on the bench here, so it was pretty much a complete case swap out, and if we did everything right, we should be able to hit the power button here and it turns on. That's a good sign. All the fans seem to be working. We've got the 200 on top, 200 on the side, 140 on the bottom, 200 in the front. My overclock's kicking in. So we're good to go. Should fire right up. Again, it's my old hard drive in here right now, so I should be back on my desktop in a few days. I'll have to come back in this thing here and swap out the drives for my other hard drives. I got a bunch of storage drives going here, and I think this one will be right around 3 or 4 terabytes. 3 for sure when I get done, and plus solid state. So my other one, I'm going to probably, I'll have about 5 terabytes different drives than that, 5 or 6, plus the 512 gigabyte solid state. But we've got to look here, make sure, kind of feel it. It's hard to tell. We're not getting any beep codes. If that pump was failing, it would be already it'd be beeping. All of our fans go in here. Looks like everything's good. I found that with when you put a side fan on a case, the best thing when you have your hard drives located over here is to run the wire underneath. And I'll tie this up, you know, a little bit closer here in a bit, but what works pretty slick is having it plug in under there and then shoving it under there, so when you close the case, everything goes underneath the hard drive bays and it's not ending up in this fan over here, you know, getting stuck or whatnot. So got a little fan switch here. Let's see if we can turn that up. You can really crank the RPMs on that thing. I turn it up just a little bit, that way we pass some air through, so it's not too shabby looking. Gets the job done. So this is one of 3, and I think this will make a mighty fine backup just in case if I ever need it. And of course it's nice for Aiden to be able to use, and sometimes I'll have a buddy stop by and he can jump on and play. Can't get the wife to game anymore, she's too busy. Just got her right into it literally the same month that we found out we were pregnant with Aiden, and that was pretty much the last time that she was online. In fact, it was on this computer here right after I built it, so right around there's about. So yeah, kind of crazy, but that was the end of her gaming days. But anyway, we'll come back, and part 2 will be putting the new motherboard and all the new parts, and thank God for the modular power supply the 1000-watt we'll be using, and 4770K and 16 gigabytes of Vengeance RAM, solid states, the whole 9 yards. The only thing that I'm not sure about is putting this guy right here on. It's probably the right thing to do, but I'm really thinking about sticking with the Windows 7. We don't know about the updates that are coming out. April 8th is when they're killing XP. And they're also going to be releasing the Windows 8.1, is it Update 1, what they're calling it? So 8.1 is already out, but this is, I think, Update 1 or something along those lines. And all they said is people that use this and this, mouse and keyboard, we're supposed to be happy with the update coming out on April 8th. I've been looking forward to that day a long time, for them to kill Windows XP, and just so sick and tired of fixing it for people and working on it and looking at it on an almost daily basis. I haven't had to now because since I've relocated and I've left my customers mostly behind, and I've picked up a few new ones so far, but I'm not really actively seeking any business at this point until I get some things sorted out here. So don't forget, we're going to be running some Twitch. Got my little monitor over here so I can read all the chat. And we're going to be on there a whole lot. I want to check too to see if my lights are going. Looks like they're both working here. That's a hard drive. Yep, it's chumming away. So yeah, we're going to be doing some twitching. Some twerking, twitching, whatever. Not Miley. We're not Miley here. So we'll be giving you some information on that. I'll let you all know. And the link is already on my page there. So you can pretty much catch me playing games in between YouTube videos and whatnot. So I hope you guys enjoyed and found this informative a little bit. And sorry if I drug it out too far. But just wanted to kind of show you a few things. And we will come back at you in part 2.